Behold how good it is, and how pleasant when brethren dwell in unity.
So far, we've been reading straight through the Torah from Genesis to Leviticus. But for the next 2 weeks, the normal Torah portion reading cycle breaks and focuses strictly on Passover readings. This will happen again for Shavuot in the spring and the high holidays in the fall. If you didn't already know, Passover begins the night of March 30th and ends on April 7th. On the first day of Passover, according to Jewish tradition, Exodus 12:21 through 51 is read. The text covers the Passover in Egypt. On the night of the final plague, the Israelites were instructed to sacrifice a lamb as their Passover offering. They were to take the blood of the lamb and paint their doorpost with it as a sign to the angel of death that God-fearing Israelites were present. Every household who obeyed this command was spared or passed over. Jews were instructed to eat the roasted meat of the lamb offering with bitter herbs and unleavened bread, or matzah. They were commanded to eat in haste. God commands that they conduct the Passover dinner, called a Seder, every year as an act of remembrance and also a teaching tool for the next generation. That is why Jews for over 3,000 years have been holding an annual celebration to mark their freedom from slavery. And they still use the same ritual elements as laid out in Exodus of bitter herbs and unleavened bread. More and more Christians are starting to observe some kind of Passover Seder dinner. I spoke of the reasons why Christians are drawn to the Passover and the Messianic Lite called Bo, which covered Exodus 10 to 13. I won't repeat myself, but I will summarize. The Last Supper was the disciples' meeting to observe the Passover with wine, matzah, and herbs. When Jesus commands his followers to eat this bread and drink this cup in remembrance of me, he is referring to moments of ritual in the Passover dinner and holding up the Passover elements. In my opinion, there is no richer and more authentic way to take communion than in the context of a Passover Seder. My family has been hosting a Passover Seder dinner for the last 10 years. I am asked all the time for resources and guidance on how to conduct Seders, and I understand the angst. The ritual has many elements and can be completely overwhelming. The very first Seder we hosted, I cooked and set up for 2 days straight. I was learning as I was doing, which is always a painful process when there is a deadline. At this point, though, I can say that we have everything we need and the process is way less time-consuming and stressful. However, my family still refers to it as Mom's Olympics. The work is completely worth it. We have found the act of remembrance to be one of the most life-giving events of our year. There are loads of resources out there with practical guides for conducting your own Seder. I will go over the basics of a Seder dinner, and I will attach links to checklists for table setup and printouts for the readings and prayers and recipes. At the center of every Seder table is the Seder plate. The Seder plate holds the 6 ritual elements for the meal. Each of the elements is layered in symbolism. First, there is the bitter herb as required from the very first Passover Seder in Egypt. The bitter herb is most commonly horseradish. I get the jarred kind. It is meant to be a reminder of the bitterness of slavery. A second bitter herb is usually romaine lettuce, albeit it is much less bitter. Next is a roasted lamb shank bone. It is not eaten but sits on the plate as a symbol of the Passover lamb which was sacrificed. Haroset is a wine, apple, and cinnamon mashup. It's very tasty and it is meant to represent the mortar and brick made by the Jews when they were slaves in Egypt. At one point in the dinner, the charoset is put on matzah like a sandwich. The Seder plate also has parsley. Parsley is a symbol of new beginnings, although as a part of the meal it is dipped in salt water to represent the tears of the slaves. A roasted hard-boiled egg is part of the Seder plate as well. On the side, in their own bowl, are hard-boiled eggs for everyone at the table. The meaning of the egg is less clear, but a common interpretation is that it symbolizes the cycle of life. I can tell you that personally I'm always very ready to eat the egg and dip it in salt water. The Passover readings take quite a while, so by the time we get to the egg, everyone is usually very hungry. The Passover ritual reading is called the Haggadah. There are many Messianic versions of Haggadahs out there. that also highlight moments in the Last Supper and include gospel readings. I will provide links to those resources. My family uses a scripted Haggadah that allows each person to read parts like we are doing a joint reading of a screenplay. The Haggadah signals when during the meal you are supposed to eat the different elements on your Seder plate. On 4 occasions, you also drink the glasses of wine when the Haggadah prompts. The reason for 4 cups is based on the rabbi's interpretation of Exodus 6:7, where 4 different terms of deliverance are employed. I will bring you out, deliver you, redeem you, and will take you to me for a people. Of course, grape juice is kosher as well. A 5th cup of wine is left on the table undrunk, and that is a cup for Elijah. On 4 occasions, you will pass the plate of matzah as staple throughout the Passover meal. If there are loads of children at your Seder, which I hope is the case since the ritual is designed to educate the next generation, I can promise that matzah crumbs will be littering your floor by the end. As far as the meal goes, you can serve whatever you like for your guest, just nothing with yeast. It is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, after all. When the Israelites left Egypt, they had to do so in haste, and there was no time to let their bread rise. So they brought unleavened bread. After the Passover Seder, the matzah keeps coming for a week. Jewish families rid their homes of all leaven for the holiday. Please feel free to comment and share about your own Seder experiences. Seder fails and Seder successes are welcome as we all learn and grow from this rich, life-giving feast together. See the link below on this page for the Messianic Lite resources for your own Seder dinner. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.
Behold how good it is, and how pleasant when brethren dwell